When I go out and do my work to try to understand, why does a farmer choose precision ag tech? Why does this farmer bring robotics onto their operation, and does it make their life better or worse? Those answers aren't going to suddenly make this like rosy, better, more sustainable agri-food system possible. But I think the bigger conversation, different kinds of people with different viewpoints asking those questions, has the capacity to imagine something that's better than what we have now. When I was in graduate school, I tailored a lot of my program around environment and food from the beginning. And I was interested in why unsustainable agricultural practices were so commonplace, why small farmers struggled, why big farmers didn't necessarily make sustainable transitions when there might be good possible pathways for them to make those transitions. And so for me, that's like always been the connection. I just got back from Wisconsin. I was very lucky to get a grant from the Great Plains Center for Agricultural Health that's based out of the University of Iowa. They award pilot grants for exploratory research, something interesting, maybe something we don't know about a ton yet. And my previous work has all been looking at automation, automated technologies on farms like precision ag and corn and soy, and then going out to hop farms in Washington to understand how their automation and this really labor-intensive plant agriculture impacts farm worker well-being and things like that. So I applied to say, hey, what if we look at the same question about automation in agriculture, but instead of looking at plant agriculture, what if we go out and we look at roboticized dairies in Wisconsin, where the technology is more about maintaining mid-sized agricultural practices? And so myself and a student of mine went out there. We spent a lot of time on farms looking at robots milking cows. We usually look for 3 levels of automation where we see like active robots. One robot that you might see, and it's the lowest level form of automation, is what's called a feed pusher. If you haven't seen a cattle barn, the cows sort of all line up in a row. They can stick their heads through this, it looks like a little gate, and they'll pile feed on the side of that gate. And as cows eat it, it gets pushed out, so they can't get to it anymore. And so there's a little robot, looks like a giant Roomba, that will push that food back into a pile. It helps make sure that the food stays there. It has some efficiency gains, some labor savings. Then is probably the robot everyone thinks of, which is the milking robot. If you're a person who thinks about robots in dairy, this is what you think of. And it's pretty fascinating to see it work because it is like a real just metal arm, and it's got these attachments on it. So it knows which cow is which, it knows about where everything is on the cow, it knows how much milk it usually produces and which udder is the good producing udder, and it washes the udders, sticks those suctions on, milks the cow, takes it off, washes the udder again, and sends the cow on its way. And then the third form of automation is the newest, and that's what's called like an automated feeder or robot feeder. It looks kind of like a giant feed pusher, and a farmer sets out all the different kinds of feed that they grow, and it goes around and the claw sort of picks up all the food and sticks it in the vector robot, and the vector robot mixes it all together in like a little spinny thing, and then takes it and deposits it wherever there needs to be food. I think some top line takeaways that we saw from this research, one of them is that the nature of labor for farms deploying robotics really changes. They're not keeping track of as many workers anymore. They're not having to work at 6 a.m. every morning and 5 p.m. every night. And so their relationship to farm work has really changed. One of the big positives from that standpoint is you are freed up with some of your time. And whenever a farmer is freed up with some of their time, it can often result with positive outcomes. The opportunity of doing field work in the social sciences is this really unique chance to get a much more intimate look at how people who aren't the same as you live their lives. Being out on the farm, being out in people's communities, in their homes, you're not a reporter on a beat asking the same questions to everybody. You're not a tourist just looking to like go find a good place to eat. You have a goal, but your goal is basically to listen and to spend time and to observe. And you find some people who are willing to let you do that. That positionality is really unique, and getting to take a student there and see that student, one, be a very good sport about how smelly the whole thing was, and also getting to like do that myself again for like the fourth or fifth time I've done field work like this. I'm just always reminded that it's very lucky to get to do it, and I just think a really enriching experience. So what I hope my research contributes to is a body of scholarship that makes more sustainable pathways for agriculture and food systems in America possible.